Alright, welcome back, guys. What we're going to do is we're going to take a die grinder with a wire wheel on it here, and we're going to hit this spot and see what it looks like. And same thing on the inside before I take the media blaster to it. Look at that. She peels right off. Now, as crappy and as lumpy as that looked, you can see it right here firsthand that there's not a ton of pits in that. It's just lightly pitted. So I'm going to run the DA and feather this out to make sure the corrosion has not gone out any further. We're going to throw a piece of 180 on there and feather that back, try and cut it flat if I can. Just want to get a peek at that and see what it looks like. Looks like we have really good adhesion in the rest of these areas. I need to feather that back a little bit more, which I'll do here real quick. I need to change that piece of paper though. That piece of paper is done for. I think we're just about out of 180, so I picked up some more last night. Always a good time down at the shop owner's warehouse. I can't go there without spending an hour there, whether it's looking around to see if they got anything new or BSing with the owner. Good time, so appreciate it there, buddy. some pitting on the bottom and there's a little more corrosion. We're going to have to go over this lip, and I'm going to take and flip this over and see what the backside looks like. If there's no corrosion over, zoom back out here, if there's no corrosion over in the lip on this side, that I can, once I start feathering in back into this, we'll stop. Same thing going this direction, and we'll focus on the back. The only other spot on the front here is that spot right there, which is going to get a wire wheel to it, the small one, and I'll probably try and media blast that just a touch and get that feathered out good. And we're going to squirt some feather fill on these after I get a little epoxy on them. Get an 80 grit scratch in that metal for the epoxy and put that feather fill down and then go from there. So I'll bring you back once I have a little more accomplished. Alright guys, you saw me working the wire wheel on this, and this is kind of what we got right now. And see, I've got this paint feather edge back. I've got a little bit of tape on here. I've got a little dam made on this end and one on the other end. I've got some phosphoric acid in a cup here, and I'm going to dab it over the pitted areas. I've wire wheeled the snot out of it, so the majority of it's gone, but I just want to neutralize it. I'm going to put it on with a chip brush here. We're going to try and focus it on just the metal. And then after this dries, we're going to hit it with a red Scotch pad before we go any further to remove the phosphate coating. It'll leave a white or a gray coating. We're going to start on the inside panel here because it's the direction I have this flipped. The other thing, you don't want to get a bunch of it down in the rolled over lip of this, because if you can't get it out and it starts to creep out while you're painting, that is bad juju. You don't want that. You can use whatever brand you prefer. There's Prep and Ready by 415. There's this is the box store brand. This is just phosphoric acid. But we want to treat these pits and make sure that this doesn't come back. The other gate was nowhere near this bad. I actually had bright shiny metal all the way across it once I blasted it and sanded it. But these, since it's raining today, we can't blast, at least not outside, and I really don't want to do it inside. If I had a flat surface, I have a spot blaster that works good, but this is just one of those scenarios where we kind of have to do it this way today. And I'm really focusing on the areas where there was heavy pitting, because that's the area where that corrosion may still exist, and we want to try and neutralize that. My preferred method would be to media blast this and remove it all, but it's just not going to work that way today. So we'll let this sit on there till it dries, and like I said, we'll scuff it off with the old red Scotch-Brite. I'll probably take a towel with some water and wipe it first, just to make sure that we've got as much of it off as we can, and then Scotch-Brite it, wipe it down, and then epoxy primer. Those of you who follow Matthew A78 in the After Hours Garage, he did one of these. Didn't really show the process of how to do it, but I do it the same way he does it, and he's a professional body guy. Turns out some nice jobs out of his home shop. It's really cool. If you guys aren't subscribed to him, check him out. So we're just going to get this on here and we're going to let it set. So that's going to be it for right now, and then in the next clip we'll have this all Scotch-Brited down and back masked and ready to put some epoxy on. We'll catch you after. Alright guys, we're back. This is masked up and ready for some epoxy. What I've done here is I put a little tape around the edge. We're going to peel it back. We're going to put epoxy on all of this stuff, and after it flashes a half an hour, 45 minutes, we're going to go ahead and put the polyester primer on it. Done some creative masking down on the front side of it. Tape is just a soft edge here, it's not stuck to it. Make sure not to spray over that. Sometimes I'll actually tape that back, but this is primer, I'm not worried about it. So we're going to get some epoxy on this spot, and on the outside here. All of the phosphoric acid has been cleaned up with water and then a red Scotch-Brite wax and grease remover. It's all ready to go. I got to run the scuffy. I see a shiny spot there real quick, but I'll bring you back when we're ready to put the epoxy on. Alright, we're going to put this epoxy down. We're going to put this down with the Finish Line 3 gun, which is pretty much my primer single stage gun. I've got the 1/8 tip in it for doing the polyester primer, so I just choked it down for the epoxy. Dropped the air pressure, running about 12 pounds air pressure, fans narrowed. And that's going to be it. I've already done the bottom side because there's no way for me to get the camera down there. But I got to get this on the old Charger-Rooney here for you guys so I can bring you back for the next step. We're probably going to go with 2 coats of epoxy on this. I've got to give this a 15-minute flash. We'll see what it looks like when it flashes. I may or may not put a second coat on it. I just want a barrier in there, something to grab that bare steel that's been scuffed appropriately with 80 grit on the steel, and we've got about a 180 scratch in the rest of it on the painted surfaces because we are going to put the feather fill over top of that. So that's what we got. Just want to seal that off, and I'll bring you back for the next step. Alright guys, it is prime time with the feather fill, and we are going to got some in the cup here. I got about 8 ounces mixed up, and it's probably more than I need, but the fact of the matter is I don't know any good way to measure the catalyst for this, and it comes in these little tubes. A gallon comes with 4 of them, so one of these tubes will do 1 quart, and 8 ounces is 1/4 of a quart, so this is marked off in 4 different areas for what it is. So 1/4 of a tube will do that. So we'll go ahead and put the catalyst in it, and we're going to shoot it through that 1/8 tip. Now you usually have to take a razor blade into the tip of these and cut a little X so that you can squirt it out. And as you turn this upside down, bring you guys over here and zoom you in on the mixing cup here. Probably put the cap back on that real quick to show you guys. Oh, now I can't see through the viewfinder. There's 4 marks, and it's full to the top one. So we're going to bring it down to the 3rd one, and that's 1/4 of this tube. And that will be ready to mix. This is a very similar catalyst to what body filler uses because it's a polyester. That should be right on. Yep, we're good to go. That's all it takes. And we'll mix this up real well. Back you guys off here. You don't need to be at point blank range on me. So I had him put that on the shaker the other day before I took it, and then I went ahead and stirred it with a stir stick. Something was, I don't know that it was brought to my attention, but I sort of thought about it the other day because it happened to somebody else I know. After you've catalyzed a product, don't ever put that stir stick back in your uncatalyzed gallon, or you will have a gallon of junk, or you'll have to activate it properly and spray it all at once because its shelf life is now expired if you stick a stir stick with catalyzed product in it, so don't ever do that. I know it's happened to people before, and I thought, you know what, it's worth mentioning, so I figured I'd bring that to the attention of the masses. I guess it could happen to anybody. It's one of those things if you're not paying attention or you're in a hurry. You definitely want to scrape the sides of the cup on this and stir it real well. It's a fairly thick product. It's not as thick as fiber fill, which is, I don't think would ever shoot through a 1/8 tip. And the Z-Chrome, which is another sprayable polyester, that stuff guaranteed to cover a nickel in 2 passes. So this doesn't build quite as fast, but I don't need an extreme build on it. I just need a good build to minimize those pits or eliminate them if we can. That should do it. Get rid of my sticky glove there. And I am going to strain this product, even though it is a primer. That's going to take some pretty hefty sanding. Definitely do not want any surprises here. Now when it drips off the stir stick, it doesn't seem that thick, but it builds really quick. And we've let that epoxy go a little over an hour because that is the recommendation. We don't need to scuff it. It's going to get a chemical bond. Epoxy stays open for about 72 hours. So you can sand it usually after 24 hours, but make sure the hole in your lid is open, or else this stuff will not spray. Oops, sorry for the shaky cam. But this is what we got here so far. You can just see the pit in there a little bit, some of them worse than others. So we'll get you guys set up over here, and I'm going to prime the top side of this one coat and see how it fills, and I might go flip it and go immediately to the other side. It was kind of a pain in the ass doing it upside down. Alright, we're going to go with that. Got the pattern narrowed down quite a bit. You always have to adjust for viscosity, so you'll have to mess with your gun settings. That's basically it. We didn't use very much. We'll let that flash about 10 minutes. You can see what kind of build that offers. I think it says 15 minutes actually. We'll let it go 15, and we'll put 2 back-to-back coats on it with 15-minute flash time in between, but that should hold that stuff down real well. Shouldn't be able to see any of the pits, or very few if any, on this side. My main concern is the opposite side, so I think I'll go 1 more coat on this and then flip it and then do 2 on the other side. So that's what we got for now. That is the miracle fix for that kind of problem. Once you've got your epoxy down or your etch, the only thing about spraying the feather fill over the etch, it says it can increase the sand time from 2 hours to about 6 to 8. So that does make a difference. Hopefully this will be ready to sand later tonight on the interior, so I can get this jammed out and get it flipped tomorrow to paint the other side. So I'll bring you back basically after this is all done. Alright guys, we're all primed up. I don't know what I did. I put a little nick in it right there in the wet primer. We'll see what happens with that. I may have to shoot that after it's blocked out with a little 2K if it doesn't block out, but everything looks pretty good. I still got a couple little pitters over here. I may have to wipe that. This side was worse than I thought it was toward the bottom, so we'll see what blocks out later on, but all in all it looks good. Obviously I've got it flipped over at this point, and yeah, you can't really see much of anything here, so there's no use showing. I'll bring you back when it's time to get it ready for paint. A couple hours from now I'm going to come back and block the interior parts out and the exterior parts out, and then back tape it for painting the interior tonight so that I can assemble tomorrow. We'll catch you guys after a bit.